a secret. In fact, by now it's common knowledge. For Donald Trump, spectacle and theatrics aren't merely a byproduct of his approach to politics. They are a primary feature. After all, this is the guy that had to be talked out of a $92 million authoritarian-style military parade that would have torn up the streets of Washington, D.C. The guy who threw out paper towels, T-shirt cannon style, at a relief center in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. The guy who wanted to be wheeled out of Walter Reed with Asperman tea under his dress shirt when he got COVID. The guy who used a Bible as a prop at St. John's Episcopal Church and reportedly welcomed the idea of a perp walk in front of television cameras prior to his Manhattan arraignment. As we said, spectacle. Well, today, reporting from the New York Times suggests he may be winding up to do it again. According to the Times, in the course of a week, Trump plans to attend all three of this month's courthouse moments. Oral arguments in his D.C. Circuit immunity appeal on Tuesday. Closing arguments in that $60 million civil fraud trial in New York on Thursday. And then the start of the E. Jean Carroll damages trial the following Tuesday. Michael and Andrew are both back. Andrew, before we even get to the political half of this development, just from a strictly legal strategy perspective, is Trump's reported decision here more likely to help his causes, to hurt them, or neither?
I think it helps him because of the political sphere that Michael's going to talk about, which is, his sort of saying that I'm now spending time on the cross. I'm a victim. I'm a martyr for you. All of these sort of not so veiled allusions to religion and what he is doing for his base and sort of locking that in. And that really is, in many ways, his legal strategy, because legally, let's just take the E. Jean Carroll case. He lost that already. The case that is coming up, the judge has already found liability against him. So much like the Rudy Giuliani case, we know he is losing that case. It is just a question of how much money the jury is going to award. So he is going to be using that both to pursue his sort of victimization strategy. And as you said, Alicia, he's going to use this as free publicity. And I think the challenge for all of us in the media is really understanding that, and understanding that if we're going to be spending much time, as we have to spend time covering the nature of those cases, and if liability is found, whether criminal or civil, we obviously have to cover that. It's a first. But we really need to think about how much time we're going to spend on other candidates, both Republican candidates and Democrats, so that it does all of the noise and all of the oxygen in the room is not swallowed up by Donald Trump making these cases the Donald Trump show for his base.
Well, Michael, so let's put that in the context of the calendar. Let's show that calendar one more time. The other date there, January 15th, Iowa caucuses. The Times notes Trump will crisscross the country, flying back and forth from New York to Iowa, then straight to New Hampshire on the 16th. That's a lot of effort. Michael, why is he going through the trouble to do that?
Because it's not a lot of effort. It's all part of the playbook. I mean, this is what the man does. I mean, to Andrew's point, look, we just celebrated the birth of baby Jesus, but for Donald Trump, every day is Good Friday. It's all about being strung up on the cross. They're coming after me. I'm standing before Pontius Pilate, who is all of us, right? That's Donald Trump's mindset. So this is. There's reporting out about Donald Trump, being worried that the Supreme Court is going to, not side with him. Donald Trump ain't worried about that. Donald Trump's not worried because it's all part of the show for him. Every good or bad piece of news is more fodder for him. So when you're looking at the Iowa caucuses, officially kicking off the political season, this is the preseason. This is the warming up. This is sort of testing messages. This is how I'm going to move here and move there on these issues that I'm going to show just how much of a victim I am. I can really play the part. And so I think to Andrew's very important point that should not be overlooked. It matters how the media covers this. It matters how the voters receive this information from him and how it's contextualized, because it's all being played out by Trump to do a number of things. But one very important thing, in all these trials, all he needs is one juror. And everything is playing to that one juror who's going to sit there and go, nah, he didn't do it. And I think that that's a big part of the narrative that you see. So it's not a problem for Trump to get on a plane and go where he needs to go to campaign and then come back to a court hearing and campaign there as well, because that's all part of the same scene for him.
Well, especially, Michael, because in as much as it is about that jury, I agree, it is also about the folks who are going to be watching and listening. I want to read you some of what the New York Times reported. Mr. Trump is among the most disciplined, undisciplined political figures in modern U.S. history. For all his self-inflicted wounds in his public comments and erratic social media posts, he is fairly rigid in delivering a repetitive message of grievance and victimization to his followers. He is aiming to turn undesirable circumstances that he is furious about into a kind of high-stakes drama that he can direct as he and his campaign navigate a thicket of legal proceedings in the coming months. I mean, here's the thing, Michael, there's a reason people were concerned about broadcasting his various trials, right? That he would have a microphone, he would turn the legal proceedings into sort of political sideshow. Is this just another way for him to do that?
Yeah, it is. And I think, Alicia, it presents a real conundrum for the press in how to appropriately and accurately cover this. You have a lot of people clamoring, oh, we want to open the federal courts to cameras. That's a dicey proposition, because it's not so much about, Donald Trump is going to jump across the table, as we saw recently with one defendant who was, reproached by the judge and he didn't like it in setting bail. But it's the mugshot. It's Donald Trump sitting here like this, and Donald Trump having this sour, scoured look on his face. That is just as important a narrative for him as any, action. It's not always about the screaming and the shouting. It's what I can do with the looks on my face and the deep sighs. So all of this, becomes a problem for how these cases are going to be covered. Donald Trump knows that already. So all he's waiting for is, you tell me how you're going to cover me, baby, and I'll tell you what kind of performance I'm going to give you, because this is about all the folks out there I know I can tap into with a sigh, a look, or a reporter making it seem like I'm a victim.
Right. Well, Andrew, there are the sighs, there are the looks, and then there are also the arguments his legal team is making in the way of sideshows. This is breaking today from NBC News. Quote, attorneys for former President Donald Trump are once again pushing to delay his federal election interference trial, telling a judge that special counsel Jack Smith and federal prosecutors should be held in contempt for filing motions ahead of deadlines and continuing to provide Trump's team with discovery. John Lauro, a Trump attorney who has argued that Trump's election interference trial should be delayed until 2026, filed a motion Thursday calling for the special counsel to be held in contempt for what Lauro called an unlawful production of discovery, accusing federal prosecutors of partisan-driven misconduct. Andrew, any merit here?
Let's just step back for a moment and take a focus on what they are arguing. A defendant is arguing that they're upset that they're getting too much discovery too soon. What defendant in the world has ever made that argument? I mean, this is a motion that is sort of dead on arrival, and it is written for an audience outside of the courtroom. Very much like a lot of the legal briefs that we've seen from Donald Trump's team, it is filled with rhetoric not aimed at the judges in the courtroom. This is really a truly preposterous legal argument. You know that they're trying to satisfy their client. They are playing to their base, as we've talked about, sort of using these legal proceedings to get messages out in terms of the political realm. But as a legal matter, the idea that you're getting discovery too soon is, I think, going to be something that Judge Chutkan says is flabbergasting as an issue. And the idea that you're going to seek a contempt order, I mean, usually the parties on both sides only do that where it's truly egregious conduct. So this is dead on arrival.